We are approaching a very big fight for you guys. Uriah Hall set to fight Anderson Silva in Saturday's UFC main event. On Halloween, if anything, are you going to be like dressing up in the corner in the costume or something, or what are you doing here?
I mean, I'm going to have a mask on anyway, so yeah, I guess I will be dressing up a little bit, but no real plans.
Yeah, we got the fight kit anyways, so there you go.
There you go. That's my outfit. I'm a coach.
Where does this rank in your coaching career in terms of like the biggest fights you've had? You think Anderson Silva, main event, all that stuff? It seems like a pretty massive one.
Yeah, I mean, when you're fighting one of the best fighters ever, I mean, it's awesome. There's no doubt that Anderson is going to go down in history as one of the greats, and he's definitely a little older now, and not the champ, obviously, but he's still fighting Anderson Silva is still an awesome thing, and we're definitely prepared for the best version of him.
Yeah, and especially from all appearances, it's going to be his last fight. We can get into that in a sec, but just in terms of Uriah's perspective and everything, of course, this has been such a crazy year for him. He was supposed to fight Jacare at Jacksonville. That fell apart. Supposed to fight Yoel Romero. That fell apart. Now he gets this. How have you been able to keep him mentally strong through all this?
I mean, he's unbelievably focused. I call him Benjamin Button. I said, you just keep getting better and better with age. I mean, it's a weird thing. He's just every single camp, he's just clicking it up a little bit more, and with his strength and conditioning, with his training, he's really he's really keyed in to just to our program, and he hasn't missed a step. I've given him a week every time. This has happened to him twice. He weighed in for the Jacare fight, didn't get to fight, which that was definitely rough, and then Yoel situation. So I've given him a week or two off after each one of those situations, but he's just been back in the gym and back in camp and ready to work. So it hasn't been too bad.
That's good to know then, because I mean, we could be honest here. I think a lot of the criticism of Uriah earlier in his career was maybe about where is he at mentally? Is he a little bit all over the place and stuff like that? A situation like this, you could imagine that would be something that could maybe bring up some issues or something like that. So I guess what kind of evolution have you seen in him to get him to this point where he's able to keep focused despite all this bad stuff happening?
Well, we all go through phases and we all mature at different times. And I think me getting Uriah, at his age now has been great. I mean, I always tell people he's, one of my best students. I mean, yes sir, no sir, does whatever I ask. I have not gotten that side of him. And, I've heard it obviously a million times, and as the fans well know, this guy's super talented, but, hasn't strung it together yet to be a champion. But I think he's really matured as a fighter and just as a man, and I think he's just in a great place. So he's been a joy to train and focus, and he's there every single practice. He's on time, he leaves late, and everything that you want as a coach.
And I imagine it's a little bit easier to flip that switch, the quality of opponents he's continuing to get, especially Anderson. I mean, I know this one's been on the radar for a really long time. They were supposed to fight at UFC 198, I believe, back in 2016.
Yeah.
Can you see like that excitement come out of him when he got this fight? Because, it's Anderson Silva, whether he's 45 years old or his prime.
No, it's exactly right. And, getting ready for a fight that you're super excited about is fun, and I was really, really thankful that the UFC gave us this matchup. Mick Maynard, was there, so Uriah was ready for all of his fights, ready to do it, making weight. And I think that, for the UFC to elevate him from, first a main card and then maybe a co-main, I think him and Yoel are going to be to a main. We're really happy about it, and we're ready to rock.
Yeah, and of course, Jacare and Yoel Romero can strike, but I think you'd probably say, the best parts of their games would be grappling. Maybe Yoel less so. He doesn't use it as much, but Anderson is Anderson. I mean, he's an all-time striker. So what kind of adjustments have you guys had in training over the past few months for this particular one?
I mean, the cool thing here is, him and Uriah are so dynamic and they're just so good on their feet. I mean, it's just a joy for the fans and for everybody involved. It's a cool fight. No real adjustments. Anderson does a lot of unorthodox things, the hand movements and backing up to the fence and a couple of mental tricks. And as you saw against Adesanya, I mean, he looked pretty good in that fight, and I still think he's pretty dangerous. I really do. In the Kinnear fight, we didn't get to see a lot. He got hurt, obviously, and he's obviously a little bit older, but I watched that Israel fight a few times and was impressed with his ability to strike and absorb shots, and he's a dangerous guy. He was the GOAT for a reason.
Yeah, and of course you don't want to like give away game plan or anything like that. And you said it basically off the top. You're preparing for the best Anderson Silva ever.
Yeah.
But can you look like realistically, I guess, at where he is right now, being his age? Some of the recent fights. You mentioned how he looked good against Izzy and stuff. I'd agree there. But
Yeah.
what do you expect out of this version of Anderson Silva now? It can't possibly be the exact same guy we had in his prime.
No, I mean, that is something I think we all understand, but you don't want to fall in that trap where you start getting really comfortable and say, oh, well, because like you said, it's his last fight. I mean, the guy, defended his belt, 11 times? It's not like he doesn't know how to win, or 10 or whatever it was. The one thing I'll say, the good thing is with the Jacare fight, with the OL fight, we really had to do a lot of wrestling, right? I mean, we had to be ready for that. And with this fight, it's not as much. I don't think Anderson's going to shoot a double leg on Uriah. And he might, but I think Uriah has done so much takedown defense for these last, couple camps that, he's sharp there. But that was something that we didn't have to really focus on as much. So we could have a little bit more fun and be a little bit more creative instead of worrying about, that aspect of the fight, which we had to worry about a lot with this prior to opponents.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned it there, it's Anderson's last fight. Did they tell you guys that when they came to this, that, this is going to be his retirement fight, or is that something that all came up, whether it was from like Dana or Anderson himself after you guys had already agreed to this?
I heard some rumblings about it. I wasn't, sure. Obviously, I don't know what's going on with Anderson and his camp, and but that makes it dangerous, I think, because a guy like that's not going to want to go off on an L. And he's going to leave it all out there. And, 5 rounds is a lot of fighting. So, yeah, it's historic to definitely be fighting him for his last fight. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I actually talked to him a couple of days ago and, kind of asked things that you were saying there in terms of like, if it's the last one, you don't want to leave that octagon with any regrets about what you actually did in the fight itself. But this situation, not that you or Uriah are bad guys or anything, but it kind of makes you the de facto villains in a way, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure people, they want to see Anderson go on a high and everything, but you have to do your thing. What do you guys make of that? Is that something you've talked to Uriah about at all? I mean, thankfully there's no fans, so it's not like there's going to be like that element of you getting booed or something, but you just make of that side of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're so spot on this thing, right? It's like everybody loves Anderson Silva, and we're all been a part of the sport for so long, and fans of him and all the rest. So, yeah, I mean, Uriah's got a job to do, right? He's still in the middle of his journey, and we're trying to get him elevated and through the ranks. And it is what it is. Afterwards, whatever respect and homage he can pay him afterwards. And I think you saw Izzy do that as well. Everybody has a lot of respect for Anderson, and but when the fight's on, I'm not worried about Uriah's mindset. I think he's focused and ready to go, and it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. And what do you think a win would do for Uriah's career here? I mean, you could look at the wins and losses on Anderson's record in recent years, but the guys who beat him, whether it's Izzy going on to a title shot, we see where Jared Cannonier is with the fight with Whitaker, and some big opportunities there. So even this version of Anderson Silva, you beat him, it seems to still mean quite a lot in terms of the trajectory.
Sure. I think, honestly, and I told Uriah this, it just depends on how the fight goes. Obviously, he needs to win, but I think he needs to win decisively to make a statement. There's a lot of tough guys in the middleweight division, and just beating him by decision or in a closer fight, I think it's definitely a big deal, but I don't think it carries as much weight. So, we'll see. We never want to go in a fight saying, you've got to do this, you got to stop him in the first, you never know what's going to happen in a fight. You just want to be prepared for, whatever comes. And I think he definitely is prepared for whatever comes. So, but he knows, he's going to be hunting for the finish for sure. If you want to move up and you want people to want to see you fight, then you got to be entertaining, and that's just part of the game.
100%. Well, I think that's going to be an awesome fight. October 31st happens on ESPN Plus. And before I let you go, I want to ask about a few other of your guys. What's the latest with Jeff Neal? I know it came out, I believe, earlier this week that he was one of the people that Leon Edwards allegedly turned a fight down with, and the UFC trying to get him back in there. I know when I had talked to him, he had mentioned like the Michael Chiesas of the world, all those kind of people. What's the latest with Jeff right now?
Man, the thing about Jeff is, the guy's a hammer, man. I see him in practice, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm thinking, man, this guy is really so entertaining. He's so explosive. His style is, he's a pleasure to watch in practice. The guy is so dynamic with his striking and his legs and his hands, and he's been adding tools and working on other things once he's gotten healthy. And he's a quiet guy. He doesn't want to talk, shit. He doesn't want to talk about people, and he never said anything on Twitter about Leon turning him down. It's just not how he is. And, he's called out Chiesa and those guys. Nobody wants to fight him. And, the Kazmat fight never really came our way. There's really nobody that Jeff would say no to. We've said yes to everybody. But the reality is, once you get ranked and you're in that, top 10 or whatever it is, you see a lot of these guys that are playing chess, and I get it. People have worked years to get where they're at, and there's a lot of different variables there. So we're just not really the type of team to, talk shit about people and disrespect people. That's just not really the character of our guys, and Jeff too. He's just not that kind of guy. So, man, that Neal Magny fight, they had that fight booked, and he looked really good against Robbie, and he's got a lot of hype behind him, and I think that's a great fight to make. As he's shown, he's not scared to fight anybody either. So that fight works. Chiesa, anybody, Wonder Boy, anyone, anybody in front of him, they're all good fighters. They're all dangerous, and he's just got to prove himself. He needs to get another win or two. The fans have been great about Jeff. Like, it really, really warmed my heart when I saw how much love he got when he got sick and he was in the hospital. Just the fans really, they know about Jeff, man. They were bringing him up all the time. They were, how about Jeff Neal? He's the dark horse. How about Jeff Neal? And I think people want to see him fight, but he hasn't got to fight, since the Mike Perry fight. So just like anything else, he's just got to kind of get out there and remind everybody, the talent that he is, and then we'll just take it from there.
Definitely. Hopefully we can get him booked soon, because I think we all want to see him in there. And two other guys at light heavyweight, Ryan Spann and Alonzo Manfield, a couple tough losses for them.
Sure.
They were guys that had a lot of promise there, still do. But what do you kind of say to them after, taking that seemingly leap up in competition a little bit and just not being able to get over that hump on those particular nights?
Well, Alonzo, man, he's only had 10 fights, and people forget, like, some of these guys do so amazing for 2-3 years, and everybody thinks like, man, they're unbeatable. But in MMA, 10 fights isn't really a lot of fights, and he's just going through his growing pains, and the guy's been working super hard in the gym. He's focused and he's back on it, and he had a problem with OSP's length. He was trying to figure it out. We're working on it, and this is a growing process. So it sucks when you lose, but you really learn when you lose. You got to make adjustments. You have to take a honest look at yourself and develop whatever areas that were a problem for you in your last fight and in your overall game. And Alonzo's done that. Ryan Spann is an unbelievable talent. He had Johnny on ice skates pretty much that whole quick, crazy fight. We knew that was going to be a crazy fight, and that was an unfortunate situation. We won't really get into it, how it ended. But I think Ryan gleaned some actual confidence from that fight, because he's got unbelievable power. He touched Johnny twice, and, he was all over the place. And Ryan is super dynamic. He's got a great ground game. He's huge. He's a big dude. He's athletic. He's got power in both hands, the left hook, the right hand. He's another guy, man. He's 28 years old, and he's coming into his own. So losses are going to happen when you're fighting ranked fights. These are the best fighters in the world. OSP had 3 times the experience as Alonzo, and we got to take these risks. You don't get any glory by saying no, as you see with Leon. You got to take these fights, and sometimes they're not going to work out, and you've just got to get back to work and keep grinding. But every champion goes through hardship, and there's very rare guys like Khabib and Izzy. These guys are going undefeated in MMA is like one of the hardest things there is to do. So you just can't get too down on losses, and you just got to get back on the horse.
For sure. And last guy I wanted to ask you about is Damon Jackson. Such an amazing story, has come back. I mean, I remember one of the first times I ever met you, I think it was in Nashville. He was there with you, working the corner, one of those guys. And we were trying to get him back into the UFC at that point. It had been, still a little while till he was able to get there. But what a moment, what a victory over Mirsad Bektic and everything. Just how proud of you were you of that moment to see him back on that stage and get a win like that?
That, honestly, is probably one of my happiest moments in my coaching career, because Damon has been with me, and he was like 2-0 or something, and now he's 18-3, I think. I've seen this kid work tirelessly in the gym. I mean, one of the hardest working guys I've ever seen. And he never gave up. He won the legacy belt twice, the LFA belt. And he never ever quit on himself, and it wasn't looking good, because UFC doesn't like to re-sign people that they've already had, and I understand that. I spoke to Sean about it, and there's so many young guys that are trying to get in, so many talents. It's not easy to be, Sean or Mick. Those guys have very hard jobs, and so he was like, "Look, man, I've got all these other guys. I got to give them shots, and you just got to keep waiting." And that was almost 5 years that Damon was out of the UFC. So, and he was like, "Just put me in." He told me a month before that fight, if one of those, if Mersad's guy drops out, he said, "I want that fight." And I looked at him, I was like, "Mirsad Bektic?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, that's not an easy fight." He's like, "I can beat him. I know I can." Literally told me that a month before the fight, because he was eyeballing all the featherweight fights, because he knew, hey, if somebody drops, this is my chance with the pandemic and all the craziness. And I said, okay. I said, "Look, man, get ready." And I said, "I'm not going to turn down any fight. Whatever fight comes, we're going to take it." I said, you're just going to have to make it happen." So for him to go in there on 3 days' notice and beat a really tough guy who, at one point was, really highly touted as maybe a future champion. I know he's had some, hardships, but he was still ranked 15. Went to a decision with Dan Ige in a close fight. A very tough dude. For Damon to finish him like that, I mean, it was really awesome to see a guy never give up on his dreams and come back and make that, Cinderella story happen. And just so happy for him. He's got 4 daughters. He's a family guy and just a really sweet guy. So everyone in the gym was super happy too, because Damon's the guy that, laid down the mats at Fortis and helped, put the bags up and build the gym. So it was really a great win for everybody, and even our whole community and all of our students as well.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments of 2020, genuinely, and his post-fight where he talked about the reasons for him deleting social media. Yeah. I think that resonated with a lot of people too. So, that was a really special one. I'm looking forward to seeing him get back there with a full camp or whatever the case may be next time. So That's really great. And I really appreciate you taking the time, man. Obviously, a huge fight for you guys coming up. I do have one last one. I did talk to Izzy recently, and he said Uriah can win this fight pretty easily if he keeps basic. What do you think he means by that?
I think that Anderson, as you've seen before, has gotten hit with some pretty simple combinations. I mean, Wyman, hurt him with the left hook. And I think that when you try to go tit for tat with him, that's not a good idea. He's so good at that. And he's so creative. And it's weird because Uriah is so good at that and he's so creative. So you would think, well, hey, that'll be fun. But strategy-wise, I don't really think that makes sense to take the fight where this guy is strong. So I think I understand what he's saying, and the jab, and Uriah's got a great jab. The basics, I think, have to be established to get it done with him. You don't want to go in there and play Anderson's game. And to Izzy's credit, he did that a little bit, I think, just out of love and respect and maybe having fun. And, you saw him. He got hit a couple of times, and, he's a smart guy. He moved around and got out of there. But you just don't want to go tit for tat with Anderson. You got to put some pressure on him and, I think establish the jab and kind of go from there. But you never know, man. You know, the guy is who he is for a reason, and we're prepared for whatever he brings.
Yep, super fascinating fight. Can't wait. As I said earlier, that goes down October 31st, Halloween on ESPN+. Sayif Saud will be the chief corner of Uriah Hall against Anderson Silva. Really appreciate you taking the time.